We're going to start with a pretty small sheet of paper compared to what we have been used to in our class. And you're going to use oil pastels to color this whole sheet of paper, and you want to do that using warm colors. So warm colors, those are colors that make you feel warm, is the easy way to remember it. So I always think of like what colors are in fire or what colors are in like the sun. And I know there's like yellows and reds and oranges, and those are your warm colors. Pretty easy. So I'm just going to set those colors out. Did I get them off? And you want to just color this paper, and then I'm just going to do mine kind of across horizontally, and I'm going to do a little bit of blending of the colors. This part is very important, but this part is not going to be the main focus for the project. So make it look good, but don't get caught up really in the detail of this part. Now, when you use oil pastels, the cool thing about them is they kind of can be like a substitute for paint, because they can give you those rich colors that paint can give you, and they can cover up your paper like paint can. But you have to press hard, and you have to make sure you're covering a bunch of your paper, because you could just color like this, and then it kind of just looks like crayon, and I don't want that. If I wanted that, we would use crayon. So I'm going back in and making sure I can't see any of the white of my paper coming through. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but there's like some streaks happening. That's just because my oil pastel is dirty, but it doesn't bother me that much, because this is our base layer for this project, so it's not that important. And then I might put the same color down here, so I'm repeating colors, which is always a good idea in doing artwork, is to repeat. Repetition, it's a principle of art that helps guide your eye through the piece to make it a little more balanced and have a little more movement with it. Okay, and then you can switch colors. So I'm at a yellow-orange. Maybe I want to go to a orange, and I'm going to layer this orange on top of this yellow-orange a little bit. That way it can blend into the next color. So it's not just yellow-orange, orange, red. I'm going to try and blend them. So I'm going on top of that yellow-orange with the orange. And then I'm bringing the orange down onto the white and continuing to color in. And after orange, I should probably go to a red-orange. So I go on top of my orange a little bit and then bring that red-orange down. Alright, so my oil pastel is finished, and it's all in warm colors, and I chose that because the terracotta warriors are made with terracotta, and terracotta is typically a sort of like deep rust, orangey, reddy kind of color, so we wouldn't want to use anything like greens or blues for this project. We want to kind of stay true to what they really are, so we chose the warm colors. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking tempera paint, just black, and I'm going to paint right on top of this oil pastel. And I have a big, thick brush, and I will paint horizontally. And I can just let the paint go onto my placemat. The first layer of paint will be very thin. So what you need to do is you need to let this first layer dry just a little bit, and then do a second layer. So the goal is we don't really want to see the color peeking through the black. We want it to just look black. And this paint doesn't take very long to dry, so you might be able to get this done in one class time, which would be nice. It takes maybe about 10 minutes, so if you can get the first layer on and you still have 10 minutes left, you probably can get a second layer going. Okay, so there's my first layer. You can still see the color peeking through. It's actually very pretty, just like this, but we want a second layer to make it a little darker. What I'm going to do now, my paint has dried, and I have images here of the Terra Cotta warriors, different portraits, and you are going to choose which one you want to draw. And I would recommend doing your portrait on sketch paper first, because once you draw it on here, it's really hard to fix what you've done. So make sure you got it down first, then do it on here. And it's a little intimidating, but that's good for you. So you are going to create the portrait on this black sheet of paper using this tool. This is a scratching tool. You are going to scratch onto the surface, and what's going to happen, you're going to scratch off that black paint, and that color, that oil pastel, is going to shine through the black paint, and it ends up looking really, really neat. So it's called scratch art. So I'm going to do this fellow, and I chose this because every Terra Cotta warrior has a different face, which makes them so interesting that somebody took the time building these to make sure each one had their own unique personality. So I'm going to try and start with this one. I'm going to start with the basic head shape. And remember, there's no going back. Once I start, I gotta go. So I gotta be really confident. And I'm going to start light to kind of help place out everything. So I'm not pressing down just quite yet. And this guy has a really square chin. Up here. And I see it come over. And the top of his head is actually very flat. And he has this design up here at the top. So what I just did is I placed everything out very lightly. I'm not pressing down hard with my scratching tool at all. This gives me just a little cushion, just in case I mess up. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to press hard. And if you know the proper way to draw a portrait, this should be way more easier for you. Okay, so this kind of comes up. Alright, so now I will do the portrait, and I'm going to start here. Remember, halfway down the face are typically the eyes, and these eyes are very interesting, the way they're shaped. And a face is typically 5 eyes wide. And look, I'm going very slow. I really don't want to mess up here. Okay, and I see the lines of the nose. Remember, the nose, the edge of your nostrils lines up with the inner part of your eye. So right about here. So I'm just drawing sort of the nostrils and the edge of the nostril here. And this actually comes down. And I messed up a little bit, but I'm going to have to just deal with it because I can't really go back. Eyebrows. This guy has some cool looking eyebrows. They come up kind of far. I'm going to color those in. And you can see the oil pastel coming through. And some lips. I see really cool shape here on the lips. It's really strong scoop, that center part of your lip. And then it comes down. Remember, the edge of your lips always line up with the center part of your pupil. There's the line in between the lips. And he has this cool mustache. Can't wait to draw the mustache. And these are just curved lines. Think of them as curved lines, not a mustache, just curved lines. I can draw that. He has some more facial hair. He has this cool facial hair over here on the edges too. Kind of like what's going on here. It's very neat. And I might want to add a little bit of texture since this is hair. Might want to draw in little strands. Same thing up here. This is his hair. I want to draw in some strands here. Okay, now I'm at his neck, and the picture you can see has this big collar. So his neck is actually wider than his face. And I see it lines up right about here. And shoulders that go all the way off the paper. And I see some texture here on the collar, so I will add that in. And now you want to go back and find all these little details that you missed the first time around. Okay, this is a different image. I believe it's the same sculpture, but I like this texture that I see on his armor. So I'm actually going to cheat a little bit. Even though I don't see it in this picture, I'm going to pretend it's there, and I'm going to draw some of it. So I'm going to make a horizontal line, and I'm going to draw this armor. Okay, so now that I have his armor on there, I'm going to want to go back, and I'm actually going to put some ears on my guy. I don't see any ears here, but he just looks a little weird to me, so I'm just going to make some ears. These are just kind of curved lines, just because now I'm the artist making some decisions, so I'm going to put what I think it needs in here. And if you want to go ahead and like completely scratch through some things to let the color completely come through, that's okay. Just don't get too carried away, because we need that black for it to make sense. So if you see some, like, I see a little highlight on his lip, so I'll erase some of the black to let his lip shine a little bit. You want to put in a pupil, you can. My guy has really heavy wrinkles on his forehead. I mean, how interesting is that? That whoever carved this took the time to make wrinkles on his forehead. So interesting. And on his mustache, I might want to put some lines to suggest that it is hair above his lip. Okay, so here is my portrait. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make the outline of my portrait thicker. So all I'm going to do is scratch a little more around the outside lines to get rid of more of that black to make this line very, very thick. If you want to put a design in the negative space of your portrait, you can go ahead. If you don't, you can leave it just as a portrait. That's kind of up to you. I'm going to put a little design in mine. And I'm going to kind of repeat something similar to the design in his armor, because I like that design so much. I'm going to do kind of something a little similar, except I'm going to curve these lines a bit more. And this could be any design you want. Okay, once you do this and you decide that your figure is getting a little lost, go ahead and make a lot of the lines in your figure a little thicker, just to make sure he stands out the most out of everything. So I'm going back on his collar. Since my background's so busy, I just want to really be sure you can tell who he is. And you're not going to just be focused on the background, you're going to be focused on him. Okay, so you have this one. I like this one because I was able to get in his armor in this portrait. This is one I did where I zoomed in a little closer, so I didn't get to get his armor, but I tried to make that sort of pattern in the background a little bit. Either one is great. Either one is a portrait, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. I really like them. I hope you do too.